YouTube, New York Half-Ass Prepper here. By popular demand, it's time for another episode of This Old Tug. And this particular episode is the wheelhouse. On this tug, this is an very old school tug. This was built in 1959, just to warn you guys. However, it's been retrofitted over the years to include various equipment. But this is the view you get out of the wheelhouse windows. I got a row of windows, semicircle of windows that goes all the way around. That's how they did it back then. And they were big into the carpentry and the woodwork back in 1959. So all handmade doors and paneling and stuff. And everything is joined very well. Probably had a trim carpenter go to town for a few weeks on this thing when they built it. So here's the main console. This is where all the action happens here. There's no wheel on this tug anymore. I would imagine that when it was built there was a big wheel right in here someplace, but it has since been removed and replaced with hydraulic steering. So nowadays you steer the boat with this guy here. This is a joystick or a jog lever, and it goes back and forth, and that moves the rudder in the back of the boat left or right. And here's my autopilot here. And actually everything's tied in, so the autopilot has to be on for this to work. Autopilot works famously, but we don't, if you're on a long cruise offshore or something, you would activate the autopilot. This instrument here is my depth recorder. It's required by law. Doesn't work very well because of the shallow water that we're in all the time, but it's there. Here's one of my VHF radios here. This one's on channel 16 right now. That's required by law. This is actually the throttles or the annunciator. Push it forward, the boat goes forward. Push it back, the boat goes aft. It is powered by air. And if I were to, I don't want to do it because we're tied to the dock here, but you hear that whoosh of air. It's all pneumatic in there. Here I have, I don't know what this does. This is some kind of override. I got to ask my engineer if this is even in operation. But here is the steering. If I want to steer from what's called the doghouse or the aft station, I switch it back here, and then I can steer from back there. Otherwise, this setup here remains for steering. And then this guy here, push that, it gives me air to these controls over here. And back at the F station, there's another one just like it. The other captain has all kinds of problems, so he leaves Tums and stuff laying around. And he leaves his glasses for me. But anyway, here's my magnetic compass. That's also required by law. And you can see there's a little light in here. The light's working, so I can see it at night. Here's my American flag. As soon as we sail, I'll have my deckhand fly that from the mast. This guy here is a satellite compass. We don't actually use this for navigation unless it's an absolute emergency, because when you actually it probably works pretty good right now because I have nothing in front of me, but when you put a barge like that barge right there in front of this compass, because it's a magnet and the metal, all bets are off. So this is a satellite compass. It works like a GPS and satellites, and it tells the autopilot and me and the boat and every other boat in the area what my course is, my true course. So here's another throttle on the starboard side of the boat, so you can steer from standing over here on the starboard side of the boat, and you can steer from standing over there on the port side of the boat. Here's one of my two radars. My other one is all the way up here. I'm going to make that out with the glare. But I have another radar hanging from the overhead here. Then I have another VHF radio. If I'm standing on this side, I can use this radio. And another steering jog lever is on the starboard side here. And if we look up here we go. There's my loud hailer. It's my little speaker, PA system speaker, so I could talk to my guys out on deck, and I could talk up to my guys are up on the barge. I can yell out to them. Here's my tachometer. It tells me how fast the engine is rotating. As you can see, I'm about 3,700 RPMs right now. Excuse me, 370 RPMs. This is an old school slow speed diesel on this boat. Actually, I think it's called a medium speed diesel. So it's 370 RPMs, and I'm allowed to run it up to about 600 RPMs. Other than that, the engine starts to spew oil and it consumes a lot of fuel. So, and here's one of my most important instruments right here. This is my rudder angle indicator, and this tells me where the rudder is. Now I'm holding it over to the right, so it's moving over to the right, and that's very important. You see how slow this rudder is. So I look at this all the time to see where my rudder is, and when I swing it from hard right to hard left, it takes about I don't know, 5 to 8 seconds to get all the way over, and I have to look at to verify it's over before I apply power to the boat. Moving on, here is my Searchlight. This guy swings around, and it's got this old pillowcase wrapped around it so you don't nail your noggin, because it's just about forehead height, and I'm sure I've bumped into it, but I haven't really drawn blood, but I'm sure guys have drawn blood over the years. And then this apparatus here with the chains and the cables over here, and there's another handle over here. This is actually my ship's whistle, and if I pull this down, if I pull it, you hear the whistle, and then this guy here is the peeper. So my guys are good freaking out down there. They know I blow the whistle a lot, but unlike other captains, but they're gonna say, hey, we going somewhere? There's my clock, very important. My fire extinguisher, very important. My heat, my radiator, very important. This is my steering system. This thing here is actually my general alarm. I could hear it up here. Somebody in the engine room hits it. And this is how I turn the hydraulics for the steering on and off. And I have some idiot lights and some stuff up here for the engines. If the engine loses oil pressure, the idiot light comes on. And this is called a Constavolt. Basically, it's just a battery charger, because all those electronics are 12 volts. So we have to convert the 120 volts to 12 volts, and everything runs here. And if I lose the generator, the batteries, there's a bunch of batteries down below that take over, and this keeps them charged. Now this guy here is my it's called an AIS. It's called short for Automatic Identification System, and it tells me all the boats that are around me, how far away they are, what their course is, and which direction they bear from me, and the whole 9 yards. So, and then this thing broadcasts my information out to those boats. So most boats have a computer screen that tells them who's coming at them and how fast they're going and so forth. I don't have that. I could just have this display to rely on. This panel over here is my running lights. Deckhand is yelling at me. He wants to clutch ahead, so we'll give him a little clutch ahead to get the boat away from the dock. You hear that whoosh? That is the air escaping from the air controls. You know, we just pushed into the dock there. We're tied up to this old rickety pier. So here he is. He's climbing down. He wants clutch ahead to move the boat in so he can get down safely. And he'll take the lines up. All gone! Open that up. He's letting me know that all the lines are gone. So I'll just do a quick tour before I actually have to work here. Oh, it's the logbook. It's very important, ship's log. If it's not in a logbook, it never happened. And down here is my little coop. It's actually called the cabin, the captain's cabin. I got 3 steps down, and this is what the coop looks like. It's probably 10 foot by 10 foot. There's my rack over there. This is a stand-up locker. I got a little sink, a mirror. I got 4, these are called port lights. A porthole doesn't have glass, a port light has glass in it, that's the difference. There's my little TV on a shelf. There's my rack, I got a sleeping bag, I got some drawers, Carpenter built drawers under there. I got AC built into the boat, which is nice. Those are my life jackets for me and whoever else is in the wheelhouse. There's my survival suit over here. Now this guy here is actually a little desk. It's kind of cool. This opens up and they use it like a desk. And there's some drawers underneath it. Right now it's full of, we don't do as much paperwork as they used to. So it's all full of the stuff for the urinalysis exams. I cleaned everything out of here when I got this job. And underneath there is where I keep the charts. I have some charts in the wheelhouse, but that little rack is for books that the other captain likes to read. This is all the manuals for all the electronics. We have some rigging logs and stuff like that here. Here's my Coast Pilot. It's actually called a publication. I'm required to have certain publications on board. And I think it's time to redecorate here because these that obviously got wet and stained. These about had it. And this is an old school vent. This is what they had in the old days. You turn this guy here and it opens up and allows air to come in and out. But it's blocked off. I got AC now. So that's it. This old tug. I got to go to work. Actually, show you one last thing. This is the captain's chair, and only I get to sit in here. I freak out when other people sit in here, but I got this off a yacht. It's a really nice chair that I put in. They had some office chair in there originally.